Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new format on my channel, the Food Textures series. In this series we'll focus purely on textures, not the shape of the object itself. Each episode will include a breakdown of color choices and I'll walk you through the step-by-step process of building the texture. It's both fun and great way to improve your coloring skills. So, in the first episode, you'll learn how to draw orange peel texture, waffle cone texture, and all of the textures of the fried egg. Here we have more colors because we have more textures. Yolk, the white of the egg, and the fried edges. So, let's get started. This is episode 1. Let's pick colors for the orange peel. I'm gonna be using 3 oranges, light, medium and dark. I'm using Copic markers, but if you have another brand, just pick similar colors from your collection. Now I'm grabbing my light orange and starting off with the base color, filling in the whole circle with this shade. You don't have to apply the base color super smoothly. In fact, it will be better for your illustration if you add more textures, like I'm doing now. Now it's time to build the shadow, so I'm grabbing my mid-tone orange and building one. Going back to my light orange and smoothing the transition. Next, I'm deepening the shadow with my dark orange and put it in the center of the shadow, and going back to my mid-tone orange and smoothing the blend. Grabbing my light orange and making the transition even smoother. And next, with the same color on the lighter part, I'm adding textures, using dots and irregular motions trying to imitate the orange peel texture. Moving to the mid-tone orange and making the same textures but in a little bit shadowed parts. You can use different approaches to draw this texture, I'm just showing you the one that I usually use. Now I'm going back to my lighter color and going over to the lighter and mid-tone shadows to make the texture smoother. Okay, now I'm grabbing my darkest orange and making the same textures on the shadowed parts. So now I need to smooth the dark texture, so I'm going back to my mid-tone orange and going over the dark parts. So now it's time for the highlights. I'm grabbing my white gel pen and adding highlights to the top left part. You can make even bolder highlights using a pick acrylic marker such as Posca pen. Don't forget to add some dots away from the main highlight. Now I'm grabbing my white colored pencil and adding some dots all over the texture. This can help to show the depth. So now the orange peel texture is done. And I would like to show you how this scheme looks on a real illustration. Here I used a little bit different shades of orange, but the technique is the same. Okay, moving to the waffle cone and the colors. First is the very light beige, then light brown and mid-tone brown. And I'm also gonna be using a colorless blender for this one, plus white colored pencil and a gel pen for the highlights like in the previous texture. Starting with the base color using my lightest shade. And again, I'm not trying to make it super smoothly. In fact, I'm adding more textures. Moving on to my light brown and mapping out the shadow. Minding you, this is a scheme. If you understand the logic behind the highlights and the shadows, you can draw it even in the shape of the starfish. I've just blended my light brown with my lightest shade. And now I'm grabbing my darkest mid-tone brown and going back and blending it with the light brown. Going back to my lightest beige and smoothing the transitions. And now here's the trick, the main texture I'm gonna be making with my colorless blender. I am making those lines and going over several times. The alcohol without the ink in the colorless blender dissolves the ink on your base color. So this is how I'm highlighting my textures on the base layer, going over for several times for a better effect. And now I'm making the same thing just in another direction. Now I'm adding shadows to the sections with my light brown and adding to the highlighted part. Grabbing my light beige and smoothing the shadows. Grabbing my darkest mid-tone brown and adding shadows to the sections in the shadowed parts. Grabbing lighter brown and smoothing the shadows inside the sections. Adding this color here and there on the highlighted parts. Going back to my light beige color and smoothing the blend. Deepening some parts in the shadowed area with my darkest brown. And blending a little bit with the lighter brown. Now I'm grabbing my white colored pencil and enhancing those textures. Okay, now I feel that I want to darken the shadows inside the sections, so I'm grabbing my light brown and adding a little bit more of tone. And blending it with the light beige. And here how this texture looks on a finished illustration. Adjust this concept to your light situation and there you have it. Let's move on to the third texture. This is actually a set of textures. So for the yolk, I'm gonna be using 3 yellows, light, medium and dark. For the white of the egg, I'm gonna be using 3 warm grays, very light, light and mid-tone. For the crispy edges, I'm gonna be using ochre colors, light and mid-tone, and dark muted orange. And as a final touch, for the pepper, I'm gonna be using 2 shades of neutral gray, dark and mid-tone. Roughly mapping out an egg yolk with my graphite pencil. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. Grabbing my light yellow and filling in all the yolk. Moving on to my mid-tone yellow and leaving the highlight in the top left part. Smoothing the blend with my light yellow. Grabbing my darkest yellow and adding the shadow to the bottom right part. Softening the transition with my mid-tone yellow. Grabbing my white gel pen and adding glossy highlights to the top left part. With the help of my white colored pencil, adding softer highlights. Let's move on to the white of the egg. I'm grabbing my very light warm gray and making some marks. This one's gonna be even lighter when it's dry, so I'm grabbing my next gray color and deepening the shadows, and also adding the shade from the egg yolk. Going back to my lightest gray and blending the shades together. Grabbing my darkest warm gray and enhancing the shadows even more. Going back to my previous gray and blending the colors. Grabbing my lightest warm gray and adding a little bit more textures to the white of the egg. And now for the crispy edges, I am grabbing my light ochre color and going over the edges, leaving some blank spaces. Grabbing my mid-tone ochre and adding to some places as well. I'm not going over the whole edges. And as a final touch, I'm adding dark muted orange to the some parts to give this fried look. Adding pepper dots with my dark neutral gray. And for some variation, I'm grabbing my mid-tone gray and adding here and there as well. And here's how this technique can look in a finished illustration. I also used some brown and orange dots for the different spices. And this is how you draw orange peel, waffle cone and fried egg textures. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first episode and found it helpful. If you'd like to see more food textures, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video with fellow art lovers. See you in the next episode. Bye!